So hi, my name is Gabriel Rivera, and thank you for coming to my college success portfolio. My advisor is Sedano, and the purpose of CSP is to prove that I am capable of doing college level work by defending and showcasing work that I have done in the past. So in my identity statement, I stated who I was, who I am, and who I will be in the future. So who I said I was in the past, I was really isolated based on the fact that I was really like a video game addict. I let video games control my life in a way, mainly because of certain circumstances at home. And due to that, I became sort of cocky in a way. I felt myself as naturally smart, and I really didn't view education as a necessity. I knew it was important, but because I felt like I understood all of the knowledge that was given to me, I didn't think it was really important. It all changed when I transitioned into high school, and actually the summer of freshman year of high school, where everything sort of clicked to me, where I realized I actually needed to go to college, and I was not going to get anywhere if I continued to do all of the work that I've done in middle school and elementary school. So who I currently am now, I'm more social, and I am also a dancer, and that's part of due to the dance group that I have joined in during my the summer freshman year, called Tribe Called Groove. Because of them, I'm more social, I'm more active. I would say I'm also still a gamer. However, it doesn't control my life as it did in the past, mainly because I don't have the time. Now I view education as a necessity, mainly because I know what I want to be when I grow up and what I need to do in order to pursue that, which leads on to me as a future. So I want to be a video game designer or developer. Somewhere along those lines, I know I want to work with video games since it's had such a major impact on my life. I'm going to be a computer science major. However, when I say, in my slides, when I say computer science or with computer science with the concentration in game development, because of the college I'm going to, it's kind of like mixed in between. Also, I still want to pursue dancing when I'm in the future. However, it's not like a priority in my life, it's just more of a hobby. I also want to go to Canada. The reason for this is in middle school, I had a dream, it was like an ideal of me wanting to go to Canada, and people told me, they were like, oh, you're not going to go to Canada, and I was like, I bet. So now I'm going to Canada. And overall, I just want to live happily. Whatever that entails is up to me. And the work that I will be presenting will showcase and highlight that I'm capable of doing college level work in order for me to actually become a game developer and handle the work that will be given to me in college. So the first artifact that I'm presenting is my elections artifact in Ms. Rivera's AP government class. The competency for this artifact is research, and research is important because you have to be able to form your own opinions on certain subjects. In order to do so, you need to be able to conduct your own research. So a quick summary of this artifact. We had to research and write an argumentative essay on a specific part of elections that make elections either more or less free and fair. In the past, before we actually started this artifact, we just learned a general view of what the American election entails, and we had like a brief lesson on like each individual part. And the part I mainly focused on was voter ID laws. The subject question for this artifact is, to what extent do American elections live up to the value of free and fair elections? The key knowledge for this artifact is free and fair elections, voter disenfranchisement, and voter ID laws. So free and fair elections is the idea that everyone is allowed to vote for free and not forced to vote on anyone in particular. For example, if there was a poll tax, it technically would not be free and fair elections because you have to pay. Or if you had to vote on someone in particular based on intimidation, it still wouldn't be free and fair elections. So voter disenfranchisement is taking away someone's right to vote, which I will get an example later on. Also, voter ID laws is having to have a valid ID in order to vote. So in this, you can see all of the states that currently have voter ID laws. It states 1 in 10 Americans in those states do not have a valid ID, so they're suffering from voter disenfranchisement. And also 1 in 4 African Americans do not have a valid ID in those states. So as you can see, there's already a sort of thing that's not free and fair. So Some skills that I have used in this artifact was identifying biases in articles, looking up key knowledge and facts, writing MLA format, and also revision. So identifying biases in an article, as you can see, this is an actual article from Fox News. As we know, Fox News is highly conservative, and their stance on pro-life is actually more supported. So Texas women taking off life support against family wishes, then a pro-life group steps in. This obviously shows a bias towards pro-life, and because of the Fox News conservative, we can actually take notice of that. Also looking up key knowledge and facts. For example, if I look up voter ID laws, we get a much more broader search results for what voter ID is. But if I search up voter ID laws impact on the poor, we get a much more concentrated search engine. Also in MLA format, so Times New Roman, double spaced, title and header on top. Yeah, my name, my teacher's name, the class, and of course the date. Also, here's one of the revisions for one of my teacher's comments for one of my visions in order to get advanced. She pretty much stated that I had to expand on my conclusion and really fix some of the grammatical errors. So here's my conclusion. I know you can't see the highlighted part, but all of that is pretty much my conclusion that I really expanded upon. At first, I really just talked about the idea that America was already separated, and if we have the laws, then it's just gonna cause more friction between, like, internally within the United States. And when I expanded upon it, I brought in examples of Trump, I brought in examples from the Black Panther, and I really stated how it's kind of like poking at a caged animal, where eventually more violence and more chaos will erupt. So a key knowledge that I have gained was understanding the unfairness in government. An example of this is gerrymandering, which is pretty much party versus party, and an example of that is gerrymandering, the idea that people in power will redraw the district lines in order to give themselves a better advantage. Also, discrimination against people of color, and an example of that is the voter ID laws. Also, connection to the real world, know your rights. You have to be able to make changes, and you have to utilize your research skills in order to really understand and fully grasp the idea that what you can do. Also, voting is an essential part in order to make a significant change, because we are also part of a democracy. So a connection to world history, the book Animal Farm. In that book, it was sort of like a dictatorship government, and one party killed the other. So you're pretty much forced to vote on that certain party. And I connected that with voter ID laws, because at the same time, they both do not allow for fair elections. Any questions?
Could you say more about how voter ID laws make elections less free and fair?
So voter ID laws, they partially discriminate against people of color. So at the same time, like, that's sort of like not fair in a way. Also, IDs cost money, right?
Yes.
And if we have to pay in order to get an ID, and then in order to do that, we have to vote, it's not really free.
And, yeah, got it. So then why would someone argue that voter ID laws are necessary? Like, what's the argument on the other side?
So the other side of the argument, they pretty much state that we already have to have an ID.
Okay.
They pretty much state it because when you're like middle or higher class, you already typically have an ID in order to like do a lot of things. So why not have it in order to vote? They also state that it's for security reasons, just to like have an extra measurement in order to state that like you're actually a citizen.
Question. So you said that voter ID laws target people of color. Can you speak about like why?
Yeah. So as we all know, like people of color are mostly come from the poor communities, and so like suffer a lot with money and income. And as we all know, that voter like IDs, they cost money, but at the same time, that sort of money is not possible to get from like poor income communities.
So why did you choose this topic? You mentioned that you got to choose. Why did you choose voter ID laws in particular?
Mostly because I sort of understood like the gist of like other reasons or like the other elements of the voter ID or of American elections. And voter ID laws is something that's not here in a sense, and I wanted to actually learn more about it. And I also wanted to learn like the other argument as to why people would think voter ID laws were actually a good idea, because we were touching about the fact that America would like to live up to free and fair elections.
In your skills, or your research skills, you said that Fox News, the headline was biased.
Mm-hmm.
Can you, besides like Fox News' reputation, can you speak to how you identified the bias in this article?
Yeah, sure. So we can also see that like they sort of, the wording for this is they like take off life support against a family wishes, so that's already like a negative connotation. And also we can see that like then like a pro-life group steps in, so at the same time they're like making them seem as like they're the heroes.
Got it. Ooh, I have another question about this. So what if the title of this article was just family taking off life support, a Texas woman taking off life support? What things could you look for to like that would set you off to lean to conservative source besides it being from Fox News? Yeah, this is kind of hypothetical. What other things would you look for when you're doing your research?
Yeah, so the wording for a lot of the time in the article is really key and precise. For example, a lot of people say like, oh, pro-life, or like, if people say pro-life, you can already assume they're against abortion, and you can already assume that like they already have like a conservative type of viewpoint. Or for example, if they pretty much just stated someone who didn't, or if they didn't state like a pro-life group, they could have just, if they, the reason why it's so like biased in a sense is the term pro-life group, because we all know it's against abortion, but in this kind of like connotation, it's like pro-life, oh, keep this woman alive.
I see.
But their main overall argument is keep, do not like allow abortions.
Move on to your second article.
So the next artifact that I will be presenting is my PSAs for Change artifact in Garcia's advanced digital media class. The competency for this is creative expression, and creative expression is important because not everything you do will be analytical. Creative expression invokes new feelings and ideas that will be harder or unable to convey through traditional professional academic medium. So, a quick summary of this artifact. We had to adapt the speech from the Speeches for Change artifact in order to get a public support from a general audience. So, we had another artifact in ERWC where we created speeches, and from those speeches, we pitched it in front of a class, and we voted upon whether or not we would want to present or make that speech into an actual PSA. So the essential question for this artifact is how can media create pathways for change, and some key knowledge that we had to learn were the stages of video production and using rhetorical devices visually. So stages of video production I'll get later on into my slides, and using rhetorical devices visually, this is an example of how I did it. So for example, I know you can't see it up here, but there's statistics on the actual board, so that would appeal to logos. Also, the turtle costume, you get a good chuckle out of it. It's it appeals to you like through your pathos or emotions. So some collaboration skills that I have used. Collaborating as a team, brainstorming as a group, delegating tasks, and creating a group schedule. I'll get more evidence with that later on. Also, the stages of production, pre-production, production, and post-production. Pre-production is pretty much all the planning that you have to do, which involves trying to find out where you want to shoot, what your skit's gonna be about, and overall everything you do before you actually start filming. And production is pretty much the filming aspect of it, while post-production is editing. So collaborating as a team in pre-production, you probably can't see that, but we have our roles up here as a group, and all of our roles were used in order to complete this shot list in like how we wanted to actually shoot our film. Unfortunately, I don't have evidence to prove our production stage. However, as you can see, we actually did film. Also, post-production, we used Adobe Premiere. At the bottom right, we would actually make edits through there, and at the upper right, which would be our final product. So, some knowledge that I have gained. Articles, brands, and organizations use rhetoric within media to convey a message or sell a product to their target audience. An example of this is emotional appeals via sound or images. For example, the Sarah McLachlan commercial. Also statistics within commercials when they always say, oh, 9 out of 10 doctors recommend this, or 9 out of 10 pediatricians, you know? Also connecting this to another Spanish class, and also sort of my work as a game developer, the skills that I've used in order to collaborate as a group. In our Spanish class, we were working on a different artifact, restaurant dialogue, and in that group, in that artifact, we also had a team, and in that team, we had specific roles in order to actually have like a dialogue in Spanish. Also, as a game developer, you're not going to be working individually. You're going to be working as a team. Each and every person is going to have their own specific task in order to create like the best production of a game. Also, in connection to the larger world within media and how they manipulate you to buy products, and also their use of rhetoric. Any questions?
Yeah, can you go back to your knowledge evidence for the shot list? Can you talk through how your team collaborated and took over like delegating tasks? Can you walk us through that?
Yeah. So I was pretty much in charge of, or me and my director, we were pretty much in charge of like the vision and like how we would like want it to be. Our photographer, or our director of photography, he would tell us and like recommend us like, oh, we should use this shot in order to like portray this, and so on and so forth. And our other team member, he would actually like give in his input and like have like a creative recommendation in order to like see if he thinks this is a good idea in order to portray something.
Can you explain what a shot list is?
A shot list is pretty much how you would want to shoot each scene. For example, if you wanted a wide shot of one particular scene, then you would explain like, oh, where it's a wide shot and like the angle, and like if you wanted to be still, if you wanted the camera to be still or move around. Also, you would like what the main subject is. For example, if there was a person right there, they would be the subject, or if it was a scenery, that would be the subject.
Who decides, so who's in charge of doing this shot list? Is that your job, or?
It was like an overall job, because there was actually like more than one people.
And were your roles assigned, or did you pick your roles?
We actually picked the roles.
Okay.
So, but in this case, I was actually, I know it says up there that I was a producer, but as we were working on it, me and my director, Rose, we figured out that we were actually doing each other's job. But in the sense that it was kind of like a mutual thing.
Okay.
So we just kind of said, okay, we actually were doing each other's job, but let's just switch it.
Gotcha. So you switched the roles.
Yeah.
You want?
Okay, so a shot list is a very specific thing that you have to do for video production only, but can you talk about how this and other pre-production assignments that you had help you as a student overall, not just in video production?
Yeah. So, as a student overall, this really helped me collaborate with other people. It really forced me in a way to actually take in other people's opinions and inputs, and also it made me learn how to trust other people and put in their faith and their input.
Okay. What were the struggles that came up in terms of collaborating as a team? And then how did you overcome those struggles with your team?
So a lot of the times we would have a specific plan in mind, and a lot of those times the plan didn't go through, either it being the dates where some people couldn't show up, or there was communication issues. But how we really pushed through those obstacles, we just improvised. A lot of our ideas didn't really push through, so as a team we were just okay, how do we want to do this at this moment? So a lot of it was just planning ahead, which we were really bad at as a team, but overall we collaborated in order to fix that problem.
Thank you.
Let's move on to your last part.
So my final artifact is also in Mr. Garcia's advanced digital media class with competency of analysis. So analysis is important because it's the basis of critical thinking. In order to be truly free from other people's influences and be your own person, analysis is essential. So a quick summary of this artifact: we had to watch, analyze, and write an analytical paper on the use of mise en scène in a movie. So as you probably heard from Veronica, we first, as a class, analyze Black Panther and, for example, the use of how they use costumes in order to portray their theme. I focused on The Shining, and the central question for this artifact is how can artists use non-verbal elements to strengthen the story and to enhance the audience's experience, and also how can a film be viewed as literature. So some key knowledge that I had to learn in order to complete this artifact was mise en scène, theme, and audience. So mise en scène is pretty much anything on screen that's not acting. I focused on color, set design, and sound. Color is pretty much anything, can be used in anything, which is pretty much in order to incorporate the color theory into it, which is pretty much the color is used to invoke a specific feeling within the audience. Set design is pretty much what it sounds like. Set design, what everything looks like, and sound design is everything that you hear. So theme is the message that's trying to be conveyed. For example, in The Shining, the theme is that every personality has a dark and evil side. The audience is, of course, the people that are watching. So some writing skills that I had used were learning how to write arguments in order to support claims, use relevant and sufficient evidence, identify choices made by authors, and of course analysis. Analysis is broken down into three short parts of observation, making patterns, and drawing conclusions. So observations, while I was watching The Shining, I of course took notes and of how they use mise en scène. Patterns, I noticed all of the patterns that were used in the mise en scène. For example, color were used to invoke a feeling within the audience, and also set design also went along with color. Also, conclusion, I just connected it back to my theme. So here's my thesis that The Shining uses color, set design, and sound in order to portray the theme that every personality has a dark and evil side, and to enhance the audience experiences by making them feel what the characters are feeling in that moment. This is an example of writing an argument to support my claims, because I have different claims within my overall argument. So this is an example that I have with color and set design. In the green bathroom scene, the character Jack goes in and goes in the bathroom and starts making out with a woman who happens to be like sort of like a deceased zombie or whatever, and it's like, and then it just feels really gross, and you as a watcher like just feel gross, and like you're feeling what Jack is feeling in that moment, and it's also portrayed with the color green, which symbolizes sickness. Also, in the gold room, gold is a variation of yellow, which represents sanity. And in this gold room, Jack would talk to ghosts who would be drinking, and overall it would be like just a downward spiral where everything sort of happens. And as a viewer, you would see like, oh, people aren't actually supposed to be here. Like you think you as a watcher is experiencing him going through all of this crazy mental challenges. So some key knowledge that I have gained was filmmakers' use of visual and audio elements in order to create a visual subtext. So, for example, scary movies use high-pitched noises in order to create suspense. Also, romantic movies tend to use the color pink in order to symbolize love. So, a connection to a different class, ERWC. Of course, rhetoric and mise en scène both invoke a feeling within a certain audience. Also, my future work as a game designer, visual storytelling is essential within games. I will be able to use mise en scène in order to make a stronger connection with both my gamers and with the story that's being told. Any questions?
So for this, did you get to choose the movie The Shining, or was there like a group of movies that you had, like, why The Shining?
I chose The Shining mainly because I wasn't interested in the other movies. The other movies I didn't really feel like a connection towards, mainly because I wasn't, for example, I wasn't Black or Latino, which the other movies like sort of tend towards. And The Shining overall was just, I felt more like connection as an audience member.
Could you, you mentioned that analysis can help you to be your own person. Can you say more about that?
Yeah. So when you actually like get told information, you sort of just take it in, right? But you're taking in information from someone else, and at the same time, what information they tell you, you're kind of like taking it in. But in order to be truly like your own person, you would take that information and like break it down in order to form your own specific opinion, and like in order to be your own, in order to have your own viewpoint, in order to be completely like separate from other people's influences. Yes.
So as an audience member, what strategies did you use to make those observations, right? So you talked about color, but everything is a color choice. So how did you as an audience member say like, this is an important one that I need to analyze?
Whenever I felt a certain way within like a scene, I would pay attention to like what is actually on, like like what's around that scene. For example, in the bathroom scene, it was really gross. Like when I say it was really gross, it was like really gross. And then when I like looking back on that scene, I was like, okay, what's actually happening? And then I realized, oh, green, illness, like this kind of connects to it. Also in the yellow room, whenever something like weird or crazy was happening, it would always be in that yellow room, so I found like that sort of pattern also.
Could you say more about the symbolism of the color in the yellow room? Could you explain what that color means?
So gold is a variation of yellow, and yellow in the color theory tends to go towards sanity. And in this gold room, the character Jack would, be drinking a lot. He would see ghosts.
Okay.
Overall, he would do things that like a normal sane person wouldn't do, and he would like spiral down like this.
You want to move to your leadership skills, please?
So, the leadership skills that I believe are my strengths is thinking critically, collaborating productively, and communicating powerfully. A growth that I have is completing projects effectively. So I believe I think critically because I'm able to break down text, use my background knowledge in order to form my own idea. I'm able to analyze, evaluate, and challenge my own personal thinking. Evidence of this is through my mise en scène artifact and also my elections artifact. Also, collaborating productively, I'm able to share my ideas and incorporate other people's ideas. I'm able to collaborate with others. I'm also able to lead and also follow when necessary. An example of that is my PSA for Change artifact. Also, communicating powerfully, I'm able to use appropriate language and style. My thoughts are presented in a clear and concise way, and I use an appropriate medium based on whatever is given me. For example, my language in my PSA artifact is vastly different from my language in my elections artifact based on the sort of style and what each of those artifacts is requiring me for. Also, my main growth is completing projects effectively, mainly because I do not go to office hours. The reason for this and growth for this will be presented later on in the slides. So before I talk about my growth, let me talk about my accomplishments.
Yes.
So of course, I'm a dancer. I've placed multiple times in dance competitions. I've also performed many times at Pride. Also, this current week alone, I have one competition and one performance that is coming up. Also during the summer, I am now gonna be performing on the main stage at Gay Pride.
Yeah.
So also, I am one of the only persons, if not the only person, to get all of their artifacts proficient or advanced. Also, my college acceptances, I've been accepted to all but one of my colleges, which is just UCLA. Also, my grades, I've maintained a high GPA of 4.0, and actually my last quarter GPA was around a 4.22. Also, public speaking and performing, I would never have thought I would be able to do this maybe 2 years ago. I remember just whenever I went outside alone, I would text people I'm having a panic attack, yada yada yada, keep me busy. And even presenting in front of a classroom in my sophomore year, I remember I had to speak in front of a classroom and I would literally shake and everything would be really bad. So the fact that I'm able to do this and present by a piece is also really important to me. So, growth. My main growth overall is motivation. Sometimes everything gets too hard and I'm just forget it, but in order to actually help me and a concrete plan that I have for my growth is actually to attend psychological service or counseling at my college of my choice. Also, office hours, a concrete plan that I have for that is not scheduling my classes when there's an office hour that I believe that I would need to attend for a specific class. Also, stress. Mr. Garcia was telling me about a full body meditation, and I think I'll incorporate that whenever I'm feeling really stressed.
Yeah.
Also, being able to push myself. A lot of the times it's gonna be really hard again. It also tends to go towards motivation of me being able to seek counseling and seek guidance. Of course, college counselors, they're always gonna be there to help me if I need it or if I need to get a certain class, to get information. So, my future. So far, all I know is that I'm going to UC Santa Cruz in order to study computer science. So far, I'm taking everything one step at a time, and I get anxious if I think about everything overall. So personally, all I know is that I'm studying computer science, and that's where I'm headed towards right now. So goals in my identity statement, of course, being a game developer. In order to get that, I'm going to get a bachelor's in computer science. Go to Canada. I'm either going to study abroad or go after college. Whatever happens, happens, but all I know is that I'm 100% going. Also, to live happily, whatever that entails is up to me personally, but I just want to be able to stress less and overall get my dream job. Any questions so far?
You mentioned struggling struggling with motivation.
Mhm.
And I'm wondering how you is that a struggle that you had throughout your time in high school, or does it happen at certain points? And then how did you deal with finding motivation and also overcoming intense stress? Yeah. What have been your strategies so far?
So far, motivation for me personally is just me not wanting to do it, but I end up still doing it, right?
Gotcha.
So, for motivation, I don't really have currently I never really had a strategy. It's just always, I need to do this in order to pursue my next goal.
I see that.
But in order to for me, when I get really stressed out, I look at a lot of memes. Also, I just tend to just play video games from time to time when I'm feeling stressed out. I also Uber, because sometimes taking bus is really just give you a lot of stress.
Yeah.
So one of the things you talked about is you feel a huge difference between when you presented your BP in 10th grade versus how you feel standing there now. Are there specific things that you feel throughout your journey of high school that helped you get from feeling really nervous and shaky to now standing up there super confident?
Yeah, so it was just all the practice that this school has given me, also performing it with my team. Just overall, just performing in front of a group of people, via it being dancing or it being something like this, where it's sort of BP or WLE or even practice CSPs. All of this has just helped me overcome my sort of social anxiety.
I'm wondering what you're most excited about moving forward.
Just being me in a way. Being in high school, I know it was a lot changing for me. I found out who I actually was. I was able to break out of my comfort zone, and overall, I was able to meet new people and make new experiences that I personally never have gone through before. Going forward, I just really excited for what I'll be able to be, how I'm able to grow, how I'm able to see new ideas and see new people and just experience everything.
You can move on to your
What's mine? Oh, I guess my props got deleted. But yeah, sorry about that. But I would just like to give an overall prop to all of my friends and of course my teachers for always dealing with me, and also Carla specifically, because I know I go to you a lot for college stuff and we joke around a lot, and it's just been a really fun experience working with you, and I'm overall really grateful for you to be able to support me through my college process. Yeah, and that's it.